Javier Farje is a Latin America analyst who joins us now from London. Javier, I think pretty much everybody knows the problems that Venezuela has been going through, and that inflation is disputed, but the National Assembly says it's been at least 7,000% over 2019. Argentina, 58%. That's huge. What's Argentina's problem?
Argentina's problem is that there's been a slow in productivity. At the same time, the growth of, in the last 10 years, the GDP has only grown in Argentina 4 times. We're talking about an economy which is stagnant, and at the same time, as I said before, there's been the productivity in Argentina has gone down from 1 to 3% last year, which means that the economy that Alberto Fernandez has found, he was inaugurated, the Peronista president had inaugurated in December, has found an economy which is having another problem as well, which is the huge debt. The public debt of Argentina sucks 93% of Argentina's GDP, which means that in order for Argentina to be able to lower inflation, they have to renegotiate and restructure the public debt with the International Monetary Fund and other international institutions. Now, President Fernandez has ruled out any kind of shock measures, any kind of shock therapy, and he's actually talking about trying to increase the growth by social investment, because that's the economy that he actually inherited from President Mauricio Macri. So the problem of Argentina is basically productivity, but also, as you know, there's been some social unrest in Argentina caused by unemployment, and social unrest always reflects in the way the economy operates. So at the moment, President Fernandez, who, as I said, was inaugurated in December, is trying not to implement, to try to restructure the country's debt with the IMF and other financial institutions without provoking shock therapy, in order to allow the economy to grow and to avoid any kind of a string of austerity problems in Argentina. That is the challenge that President Fernandez faces for the next 4 years.
Okay, different countries have different challenges. Brazil's electorate seems to be quite confident that Jair Bolsonaro can take advantage of Brazil's sheer size. In Ecuador, the country has borrowed so much money from China that it's having a problem reservicing its debt. In Chile,
that's right, that's correct.
Chile is a good example of how people across Latin America are unhappy about inequality. Are there any signs that the governments are trying to restructure their economies to be able to satisfy the demands of these people who want a little bit more for themselves?
President Sebastián Piñera announced a couple of days ago a project of investment of $1.5 billion to revitalize Chile's infrastructure, mainly building of cheap housing for people. Unemployment is relatively low compared to other countries in Latin America, but it still has gone up. Now, President Piñera has blamed other governments, all governments, for the situation in Chile, which is a bit ironic because he was the president of Chile between 2010 and 2014. He's partly responsible for the current economic crisis. You are right, Chile is the 10th most unequal country in Latin America. The cost of education, for example, in Chile is the most expensive in Latin America, and that's one of the reasons why students demonstrated in the government of President Bachelet and the government of President Piñera, the first government of President Piñera. So he's trying to revitalize the infrastructure, and with this $1.5 billion investment, he believes that this investment and stopping the social unrest will enable the economy to grow again. It remains to be seen where he's going to get the money. $1.5 billion is a heck of a lot of money in terms of investing in infrastructure. And also he wants to build 300,000 cheap houses in order to enable the people with low incomes to have access to housing. So that's, and this investment that he has actually announced shows how he is very aware of the inequalities in Chile. In fact, he actually admitted publicly that his country is one of the most unequal countries in Latin America. For a conservative president, that says a lot about how he has become aware that in order to be able to stop these demonstrations and riots, he has to do something on the social side of the economy.
Javier, just finally and briefly, please, which economies are performing well, and in which of those countries can the people expect to see the benefit of the economy performing well?
Peru is performing really well. Inflation is very low, 2.5%. There has been an increase in exports of raw materials and primary commodities, which has, especially in the mining sector. Venezuela has improved slightly its economy because the government of the U.S. has relaxed the sanctions against PDVSA, the state-owned oil company. So inflation is expected to go down in the year 2020. They have relaxed the exchange rate mechanism in Venezuela, which has enabled to fight hyperinflation, and there's more consumption in Venezuela, although the situation is still pretty bad. Ecuador is facing the problem of social unrest because of the subsidies to oil. So Peru is the economy which at the moment is performing the best in Latin America. And we expect to see some improvement in Venezuela, although it's a long way for Venezuela to become sort of, to have a good, solid economy. And it depends how President Fernandez deals with Argentina. But Peru at the moment is the country that seems to be managing particularly well, and Colombia as well, which has always had a good economy. They seem to be managing pretty well under the current circumstances.
Okay, Javier, quick question, one-word answer. Which football team do you support in the UK?
Sheffield Wednesday.
Javier Farje.
Somebody's got to do it.
Absolutely, that's what I was going to say. Thank you very much indeed, Javier Farje. Who supports Sheffield